Have a good evening and thanks for clicking on to the Hogmanay edition of Vogan's European Outlook. Hope everybody is well and is safe if you're heading out and about tonight. It is going to be a rather mixed picture across the British Isles. Wintry to the north, almost spring-like across the south, but this has been seen across many northern portions of the British Isles over the last couple of days, despite the fact that it has been anything but almost spring-like across a large swathe of England, Wales, parts of Ireland as well. Northern Scotland has been holding on to not only snow but ice has been a significant problem, especially last night and today across my over during my travels up the A9 from Livingston last night. I noticed that was really about the iciest I've experienced on the A9. The actual main roadway itself quite slippery and did bear a lot of caution actually heading north during the overnight period. So a big contrast, like I say, compared to southern portions of the British Isles. And we do have a yellow warning across the north of the British Isles for both snow and ice and ongoing risk. And of course, I'll look in just a second at the precipitation situation as well. But it's not just across southern portions of England that has been mild. Look at these temperatures across central portions of Europe this afternoon. We had sub-freezing temperatures across the north of the British Isles. We had 14, even probably 15 somewhere in England during the course of this afternoon, thanks to strong winds coming out of the southwest. A real contrast across the British Isles, but an amazing temperature profile across central portions of Europe. Temperatures knocking the door of 20 Celsius. For the last day of December, is definitely record breaking. And that is not the only part of the world that is experiencing unusually mild conditions. Look at this across the United States. We're seeing temperatures record warm up the eastern side of the country as well. So, of course, the Manjulian oscillation keeping things, very mild across many portions of the mid latitudes. Very different to what we've seen, of course, during the first half of December. And December is winding up below average across many areas of parts of the United States as well as much of the European continent as well. British Isles seeing the first below average month of the entire year. So it's quite interesting with that being the case. But looking at the UK, and this is the current temperatures as of recording at 5 to 6 in the evening, just a few hours, of course, to the bells. And look at this here for contrast, -4 in Aviemore, yet we've got temperatures as high as 15 Celsius at Lydd Airport on the south coast. So really very, very impressive contrast. And of course, in between this boundary, we've got a lot of rain. We've got very strong winds coming out of the southwest, hence how mild it is. But then, of course, north of that boundary, it's a totally different story altogether. So an interesting end to 2022, that's for sure. And let's have a look at the overall situation here as we go from 1 year into a new year. This is the mess that we've got at the moment. We've got an area of low pressure to the west, southwest of the British Isles. Here's the boundary separating, polar maritime air versus tropical maritime, tropical continental, whatever you want to. It's ridiculously mild, that's for sure, across the UK. Notice the squeeze in the isobars. That is why we're seeing these temperatures 16 to 18 Celsius, even into the early portion of the evening. Temperatures remarkably warmer than normal, even if it was 1 p.m. But now that we're starting to get into the middle portion of the evening, over the central portion of Europe, having 16, 17 Celsius is probably close to all-time record stuff, I think. But of course, as we play through the loop here, you can see what takes place. We've got this area of low pressure that kind of moves into the UK. It enhances the rain, sleet, snow mix. Northern portions of England, parts of Ireland, Northern Ireland, Wales. And as this boundary lifts north, under clear skies, we're going to see the temperatures falling away tonight. So a cold start to 2023 across the north of the British Isles. But then as we move into the new year, looks as if Edinburgh is going to see a pretty cold night, cold, damp night with probably an increase in rainfall as we move into the early hours of the new year. Looks as if it could be quite a messy picture, as you can see here. So this is midnight. There's the area of low pressure centred pretty much bang slap over Carlisle. On the northern flank of that, we've got cold air, so it's going to be a question mark how much precipitation, wintry precipitation, do we get down to lower levels across the central belt. So it could be a white start to the new year. Folks that maybe aren't out and about tonight might pull the curtains back in the morning and see a surprise covered in snow. That might be the case. And then, of course, further north it stays dry, and it looks as if we could see the majority of tomorrow, the far north, so north of Inverness up through Caithness and Sutherland, we could see a fairly dry but cold day overall. Further south, we've still got that southwesterly wind extending all the way from the Bay of Biscay, so it's not coming all the way from the Azores. You notice that here, but still very mild. Temperatures not quite as mild as they were today across southern portions of the UK. We're going to see an ongoing snow threat, especially above 200 metres. So if you're out and about in the car tomorrow in the Highlands, for example, you may have problems with snow. But then look at this across Europe here. So if we're pulling our in pretty much from Africa, area of high pressure at 1032 millibars, centered over Italy. And basically this high pressure system with a boundary here is all allowing this warm, dry air to lift northwards into the central portion of the continent here. And then as we play through into the early portion of next week, looks as if we have some shower activity during the course of New Year's Day. And then we start to see the pressure starting to kind of rise over the British Isles. So we're going to start to see things calming down. Could see some fairly chilly nights across the board, really, with clearer skies, lighter winds, and of course the temperatures coming down even across southern portions of the British Isles. So we're going to lose that large spread, that large gradient in temperature that we've got at the moment by the time we reach the early portion of Monday, the 2nd of January here. And then we're going to start to lose some of that heat pump over Europe as well, because the setup just becomes a little bit more distorted. But as you can see here, the next feature comes in during the latter half of Monday into Tuesday, and then it looks as if we're going to see more spells of wind, rain, sleet, snow, especially over higher ground, I think across the north, as we progress through the course of next week. And there is some indications of some fairly deep areas of low pressure. Now, I've made mention in recent times about deep areas of low pressure affecting the British Isles. Up until now, we've not really seen anything particularly deep, but it looks as if the GFS is sniffing out by the time we reach next weekend. So a long way out, of course. The Atlantic is going to be the driving mechanism to the weather pattern for the next 10 to 14 days, folks. I think that is going to be the case. But I'm watching the overall bigger picture. I'm watching the progression of the Mann-Julian oscillation, watching the potential build-up of pressure across the top once again. So I'm watching, I'm pretty confident that the first half of January is going to be largely milder than average, or average at least, firmly driven by the Atlantic. But during the second half of January, between the MJO and what goes on within the stratosphere as well, we'll have a look at that in the next day or so in more detail. But there is still a lot of reason to believe that that we will see a change to something a little bit colder during the second half of January. But a classic Atlantic pattern, certainly through the first half of the first month of 2023, I think, is pretty much a given. But notice here that we do have colder air within that westerly flow, fairly strong winds with high pressure to the south, low pressure to the north. But cast your eyes to this here. This area of low pressure looks very, very beefy indeed by the time we reach Monday the 9th of January here. And this is a kind of time frame as well that the models are indicating some strong warming within the stratosphere around the 7th to the 10th of January. We're seeing that very strong pulse of warmth coming off Siberia towards the pole. So we'll just continue to monitor that situation. There's nothing imminent. There's nothing written in stone, for the second half of the month. But we'll just keep an eye on that, I think, as we go forward. But certainly this would be a very deep area of low pressure at 935 millibars, not that far to the north of the British Isles. That could be a very stormy scenario if it was to materialise. And then we'll just continue with this messy theme as we go right the way through to the middle portion of the month. Not necessarily the warmest of patterns, may I add, even though it's an Atlantic pattern, but certainly it's a very changeable pattern. Wind is going to be a feature as well. This is the chart of the GFS for peak wind gust. And you can see here the situation that we've got at the moment. Strong area of high pressure over Italy. We've got the area of low pressure over the northern half of the British Isles here. Strong winds in between that boundary, and therefore we're seeing downslope compressional warming with these strong winds rounding the top of the coast here of France, the Netherlands, Belgium, into Denmark. Areas in the southern flank of that jet is seeing some incredibly warm temperatures to open the year. Looking at the this is off this the CFSV2 for the month of January here. So this is the week by week increments here. Strong positive NAO pattern at the moment. We've got a warm Europe, we've got a warm North America, as you know. And as we go into week 2, you can see here that the modelling sees a little bit of a change. Notice here the heights starting to build across Scandinavia, also building across northern portions of North America here. So, all is not lost when it comes to a cold pattern, folks. And I think it's very easy to jump once the pattern breaks from a cold pattern. It's very easy for a lot of people to jump on that, saying that the winter's over and there's no sign of anything cold coming. At the end of the day, there's no guarantee that the cold will come back. But I think it's very foolish to turn around and say that this pattern is here to stay for the rest of the winter. We've got a long way to go. We're not even halfway through the winter by any stretch. We've still got a full 2 months of this winter to go, and I think there's plenty of fun and games to come with regards to a wintry theme and a wintry pattern. So yeah, I want to thank you for your support, for your views over the last 12 months. It is massively appreciated. And I will do a short New Year's message tomorrow, so stay tuned for that if you've got time. And I just want to thank you for your support over the last 12 months. The channel is actually approaching 4,000 subscriptions. Incredible stuff, actually, considering I was only at 1,000 around this time last year. So a huge growth in my subscriptions. I do appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in day by day. And if you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button. We've got a lot of interesting winter stuff to come, and I do like to share with you why the pattern is the way it is, as opposed to it just being the case. So stay tuned. Please like, please share with your friends and family. And if you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button as well. And of course, hit the bell for notifications. Hope you enjoy the rest of your 2022. Have a good night. Have a good, safe night if you're out and about. And I'll see you again hopefully tomorrow with more. Bye for now.